Brian Decker, the famous Brian Decker. You're on TV shows now. I love that I have a moment on video, that's why I love video, everyone, of me sitting in your office like 2.5 years ago being like, bro, why are you not doing content every day? And I'm going to take credit that that's the reason you started doing it. Probably not, but...
You were a big inspiration on it. Honestly, I remember you coming in and you're being like, bro, why are you not doing a ton of content and video? And I just thought to myself like, well... there's no way to monetize this. And, I'm making a couple $1 million a year on mortgages. Why am I going to waste a bunch of my time doing all this stuff for free in the hopes someday that people are going to like actually care what I have to say? Because I think we all feel that like imposter syndrome,
exactly.
Right? Like, oh, why should anybody care what I have to say? I hope they don't find out that like I'm not the best at crypto or not the best at mortgage, you know?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I spoke yesterday in office and I was like, guys, I made a video when coronavirus happened that the market was crashing. I was completely wrong. Like you just got to get over that. Like I was like, I could not have been more wrong what happened.
I did. But it's true. I literally had a video drop yesterday that I made on Tuesday and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it on Tuesday, drop it on Wednesday. And I'm like, hey guys, great time to lock in interest rate. We just gained 0.5% back in interest rate since Friday. Lock in today. Yesterday was the worst single day for mortgage-backed securities in 5 years. Interest rates went back up 0.3%. And it just completely invalidated the video. But guess what? You're not going to get them all right. You're just not.
Which is hilarious because I made a video that same day when I saw you saying rates are going up. And I'm like, crap, I've just posted a video saying rates are going up. Then Brian's writing a video that's going down. And then I guess I was right. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, man, you have just like over the time, it's so funny. Like I would say we're friends and we talk outside of social media, but it's so interesting when your name comes up in circles. It's like this like aura around you. Did you ever think that like selling loans would spiral into like this craziness of like how? But I don't ever know. Loans and selling houses for the most part are so boring.
It's so boring.
And now like you have just like leveraged all of that. Was that always the plan, or you just kind of were like, well, shit, I'm kind of building traction right now. Let's keep going more.
Honestly, how I originally even got the idea is when I moved to Temecula and got out of the refi game to go into the purchase game, I thought to myself, like, okay, how am I going to get all these agents to really want to use me at these big teams? Because they don't know who I am. And so what I actually started to do was, it's like when I got into the industry to put myself through college, I had to go sell shoes at Nordstrom's, right? And I've always said the story of like, what does a 19-year-old kid know about high fashion female shoes, right? So what did I do? I obsessed about it, talked to all my girlfriends and everything, and learned everything there was to know about high fashion and women's shoes, and crushed it and was the number one salesman. So as soon as I saw that, I realized like, okay, education is the way to true value into true sales on a longevity. So I started when I would go to these real estate offices, everybody was coming in talking about mortgage programs, low interest rates, this, and I would just watch their eyes roll back and look on their phone. So one day I started thinking, I was like, wait, Barry Habib in the mortgage industry did a brilliant job where he basically got out of loans and basically taught loan officers about education and to basically overcome objections that they're dealing on phones. He didn't teach people about loan programs or interest rates, right? So I started really focusing and educating, listening to myself to podcasts, and would go into these real estate offices and give like presentations to basically teach these people how to sell more houses by overcoming objections on the phone, simplifying real estate. And in doing so, I got a bunch of big teams that would go, oh, Brian, you got to come in and teach my agents.
Yeah.
Brian, you got to come in and teach my agents. I mean, you're here in the Valley, and that's kind of what I got known for. And people started coming up to me and were, Brian, you have a really, really good ability to take something very complex and explain it very simply using analogies that I can understand, and I don't know anything about the real estate industry. And so that started to click. And so I really my goal was eventually just to be able to get on stage at some of the big real estate and mortgage conferences and be a panel speaker on that, right? And I started to get to do that. And then I realized I'm in the wrong side of this. This person is using me to sell tickets, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to throw an event, right? So let me just start doing digital events in the sense of like every time I put a video out, that was like my little digital event that I could start growing an audience, right? And I never once in a million years ever thought that I would ever be known for producing content. I was terrible at video. I mean, shoot, like I said, it was 3 years ago, and you're the one that told me to start really getting into it,
I think that's the thing I don't think people realize is that the world we live in today is more brand based than direct sales. And if you can create your brand like you have and what I'm trying to do and everyone, it's like the business just comes easier. You're selling them in a different, it's like passive selling now.
Oh, it's so easy. And one of the things that really changed my mind is I heard Gary Vaynerchuk speak, and this was about 3 years ago, and it really hit home for me for the first time. And he said, we all are operators of a business right now. We operate a real estate company. We operate a mortgage company. We operate an insurance company. And he goes, as an operator of a business, you end up depending on the lifeblood of your revenue on third-party providers that you have no way of knowing if they're actually good or not, right? So if we're going to do social media or do content marketing or do pay-per-click, you are hiring a third-party service to come in and be the lifeblood, and you have no clue if they know what they're talking about because you don't know anything about it. So if you yourself study as a business owner, you forget about being the operator of a mortgage company or a real estate company, and you focus on being an absolute beast on digital marketing and how to get attention. Guess what? If you can figure out how and the science behind getting attention, attention turns into connections, connections turn to leads, leads turn to sales. And once you figure out how to garner attention, you can sell anything to anybody, and then you actually have real value. Because in our industry as a mortgage company, mortgage and real estate are cyclical, right? If interest rates went up to 10% tomorrow, I have no control over it. Zero, but guess what? There went 90% of my income, right? So how do I figure out a way to insulate myself from that? Is to build a brand people have a look, a feel to that brand. They expect an experience with that brand, and they celebritize that brand, right? I am a kid that was born in Temecula who came from no money, that literally still has 2 credits to get my diploma from college, right? I was an accounting major, and people now will walk up to me in local stores and take pictures of me for they follow me on crypto and mortgage space, and my wife laughs hysterically about it. You know what I mean? And that's just the weirdest concept. You know what I mean?
It is interesting. Like, it's like as consumers, we see the world one way, but then in our own business, we do it separately. Like, like we follow the Kardashians, and the Kardashians could put their name on any product, and then it becomes a multi-million dollar product because of the brand that they represent. They know nothing about makeup for the most part. They know nothing about that. But then as people in our space, like it's like they spend no time building their brand and all just chasing the next deal.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And you think about it this way, the most powerful thing that anybody can create is an audience that likes them, trusts them, and feels like they know them, right? Because what Kardashians taught all of us, and Gary Vaynerchuk taught all of us, was spend your time building an audience, and more importantly, do not create content you want to create content that your audience wants to hear, right? Like I had the hardest time in all of my initial videos I was doing were like 13 to 17 minute videos, right? Like, because I felt like I had to teach them the world, right? Well, my audience was telling me, Brian, we fall off watching your videos at the 2-minute mark. But me, I was like, well, I don't want to I feel like I'm leaving so much information on the table, right? So what I had to do was start living, as I've kind of coined the term, living in 3D, which is data-driven decisions, right? So what I do is I go and I sit and I say, okay, if my audience falls off at 2 minutes, then why am I making any piece of content
it's just a waste of time.
It's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy. And guess what? You and I, we learn at a very high level. I watch YouTube. Every YouTube video I watch it on 1.5 speed.
Always.
Right? Every single time, right? And people don't do that, right? So when I'll watch that, I download that information, boom, 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 boom. I'm putting notes in on everything that I do in my note in my iPhone app. Whereas most people, they don't learn that way. So I'm not teaching an audience of Brian's.
You're teaching the common
everyday person, which guess what? That common everyday person, most of them can probably throw a baseball faster than me.
Yeah.
Most of them probably are better about taking their wife out on dates than me, right? They have a lot of things they're a lot better than at me. But guess what? And if they were producing content about, hey, the best ways to take your wife out on a date and the best drills to run your kids at soccer, I would be consuming that information and would not be watching it on 1.5 speed, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to identify when they want to build a brand. You cannot be everything to everybody, and don't want that. What you want is to find your avatar and talk just to your avatar and create content just how your avatar wants to consume, right? Like now you're sitting in front of me and, you are a single male in your 30s. The way I have a conversation to you in a video is completely different than the way I would have a conversation to a video of a 45-year-old mom of high schoolers, right? So, but why is it that every video I would produce, I called that avatar, like the avatar of you, a Chad, right? Mm-hmm. That's just what I named it, right? Just like that avatar is somebody that is mid-20s to 40. They're ambitious at heart. They like the nicer things in life. They definitely want to get those things, but they need a little push. Mm-hmm. They need a little push on that, and they want to consume information that's going to help them get wealthy in life. Well, how I talk to you is how Gary Vaynerchuk talks to his audience, right? Like
that's his group.
That's his group. However, when I looked at my data, guess what? About 50% of my followers were females between the ages of 30 and 50 years old. Why? Because a lot of my audience are female real estate agents, real estate agents in general. Well, a female real estate agent doesn't need to be talked to in a motivational, in your face. No. They need to be talked to what I like to call the 4 R's, which is you got to relate to them, you got to rile them up on something, and then you got to reveal what the solution to that is, and then the release of how they're going to emotionally feel on that, right? So case in point, it would be, man, if I feel so bad for so many agents out there that are writing 30 offers showing 12 homes to the same people to not get a single offer accepted. You know what? I cannot believe that we are in an industry where we can work 200 hours with a client and never earn 1 single cent from that client, right? I related to them and I riled them up on something they didn't get paid. And then I do the release. And then I actually started really taking into consideration agents that are at the highest performing levels. And what did they do? And I realized they found a way to make themselves listing agents. And as a listing agent, what do? You control that inventory. And then you get a buyer's agent that works for you, a showing agent that is out there showing your buyers and focusing in on showing any of your available inventory that you can control, and or made partnerships with other agents and said, hey, can we sit down and make a deal that if one's coming onto the market and it's in this, I'll give you first right, you give me first right to be able to do that. And then guess what? I was able to spend some more time with my kids and family. My income doubled. And then what I did is I focused on this, right? Like, I'm just using this as an example, right? But what did I do? I related to them. I riled them up on something they're feeling. I revealed to them a potential solution, and I released on how they would feel. That's a completely different way you talk to that demographic. And that is what, if you want to be successful, you have to understand and focus that there is a science and an algorithm to the human psychology and how they want to consume content. And you're not going to be able to uncover that until you know who you're trying to be your audience.
Yeah. That's why it's funny you say that. We're actually working right now to break down every one of my Facebook friends in a group and only making posts to those people. Instead of just like putting something on Facebook and going out to everyone, we're literally breaking it down to like real estate agents in the area, real estate out of the area, people in the area, friends, past clients, charities, things like that. So then when we make content, we're only going to push the content out to the people that want to see that.
Gotcha.
So why would I make a video about a real estate tip and then just throw it on my Facebook wall? Why would I not only send that to realtors? Because that's the people that want to see it. And then they're going to be more likely to like, comment, and on it, which then helps the algorithm.
Yep.
And I think that's been a big mistake that people make, is they just go like, but it's taking us, it's going to easily, I'm paying someone, it's going to easily take us over a month to categorize everyone because it's 5,000 people.
Oh yeah. And what's crazy is I tell people this all the time. They spend so much of their marketing efforts marketing and using formulas that worked yesterday, then taking that same amount of time and energy and spending 20 to 30 hours learning something that is going to help them win tomorrow. So why are people still sitting down and trying to figure out the best lead program to buy? Why are they doing that? And why are they so focused on farming and learning, is core logic the best, or is core facts the best? Is this and then they're paying for coaching programs to real estate agents that were successful 15 years ago and paying all that coaching, rather than simply going online and saying, hey, you know what? The world has changed. I need to not be so focused on being an operator of my business. I need to find a way to become an expert in digital marketing. And if that is not a skill set that they want to enjoy, you better get a partner that is able to gauge that. Because if most people don't like social, and they'll be like, oh, Brian, social never worked for me. Okay, well, who did your social? Oh, well, it was a guy that works for me's daughter did social. Okay. Was she an expert in it? Does she own a social media marketing company? Like, did you look at accounts that she's blown up? Oh, no. She says she knew Instagram really well. Newsflash, she sucked. Dude.
Yeah.
And that's why you didn't like social. And guess what? You had no idea or no basis of any skills to understand that, oh, this girl didn't know what she was doing because you didn't know what you were doing.
How do you judge some? That's why when people go like, how does that person work with that crappy loan officer? How does that person work with that shitty realtor? They don't know what a good realtor or good loan officer is because they don't know the difference.
Exactly.
So they don't know anything different from those people. And so then it's just like, that person's terrible. Oh, yeah. And the only reason I know they're terrible because I work with these people and I know how good that service is.
Exactly.
Because I'm experienced.
Exactly.
It's funny that you brought up partnering, like something that's always like the one thing that, like, when obviously I'm an agent, people always come after me, loan officers, I always go like, listen, dude, like your product's not better. And I get more than just your stupid product, just so you know that.
Yeah.
I was like, I have learned so much from Taylor and Brian just in business, not even in loans, just business. So like something that's always impressed me with you two is that, and I've told Taylor this before, like he was a number one agent or a loan officer at his company, and then he went and found you, and then you guys partnered up. And that's something that, like, how was it something that you said, hey, listen, you were already crushing it, you could have done this on your own. What made you being like, screw it, like I need to bring this person in to get to another level? Because like so many people like are so scared to partner up because they're like, well, I'm already crushing it there. So what was that mindset change for you to be like, this is, and were you already looking for someone, or Taylor was just someone that came out of it?
I got the best piece of advice from one of my mentors. And I always tell people as a mentor, don't ever like write somebody on Instagram and be like, hey, be my mentor. If you want somebody to honestly be, help you mentor, find somebody to consume their content, learn enough about that content, engage in that content. And I had a kid yesterday send me a text message. Kid's name's Noah. He owns Noah's Detailing in Temecula. This kid comments on everything of mine, always tags people in. He's always doing everything he can to push my brand. So he wrote me a DM yesterday and was like, hey, Brian, I have a question for you. I'm getting a loan. You told me to not go through you because it's the home builder's giving us $18,000 of a credit. Can I pay you just to like over this? So I was like, dude, I'll call you at 4:30. Called him at 4:30 or whatever. Called him up over the phone and spent 15 minutes with him. He wrote me back like couldn't, like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, can I detail your car, do this or whatever on that? And somebody that gets to a standpoint that would be mentoring. We never feel like, oh, we deserve the right to be a mentor, right? But what we do notice are people that consistently are our biggest raving fans, and we want to give back to them, right? So when I say I have a mentor with these people, I didn't pay for them. I never hit them up. What I honestly did was try to give to them in any way I could, whether that was just sending them an email of a tip I noticed or this or that. And so they were paid the favor, whether it was at a meeting, they would take time to talk to me. And one of the guys that talked to me was a guy named Dan Hansen. Dan Hansen used to run Country Ride. He was number 2 behind Anthony Shea at Loan Depot. And I asked him and I said, Dan, you were running iMortgage, right? Which was really big. Why the heck did you decide to partner up with Loan Depot, go from being the man at iMortgage to now being, nobody even knows your name at Loan Depot because Anthony Shea is so much bigger than you. And he struck me and he hit me something at heart. He goes, Brian, no matter how good of a businessman you are, you have strengths and you have weaknesses. And you have stuff you just absolutely hate to do, right? He goes, so if you want to find out if it's a right partnership, you write down the 3 things that you are absolutely terrible at and what the thing you hate doing the absolute most is in your business. And when a partner that comes along you or somebody comes along, they love doing those 3 things that you suck at, and they love doing the thing you hate the most at, and you know that they're loyal and they got to a certain point on thing. That's what you want in a partner. So for me, what I hate to do is the super granular, detailed things. So like for an example, I'm a vision guy. I have a vision and I execute on it, and I will throw caution sometimes by the wayside. I'll say, okay, hey, you know what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen to me? Okay, I'm going to lose $100,000 on this. Can I come back from it? Yep. Okay, what's the upside? Okay, cool. Let's roll out, right? And that's the way my mind works, right? Well, what I'm bad at is analyzing the risk on something, which is what every visionary is bad at, right? They have a very hard time seeing how all the different ways your project could fail. And you also have a hard time watching out for your best interest because everyone wants to kind of take advantage of you.
Sure.
And that's what you do. So I also absolutely hate being the bad guy. I hate it. Like I've had to learn to now. I have no problem like coming down on employees, coming down on people, but it's a learned skill and it's something I don't like to do. Well, when I met Taylor and Taylor sat down with me for an interview, when I was he came in and had a freaking list of about 37 of the most detailed questions I possibly could have ever once thought of in my life. And I've interviewed hundreds of loan officers in my life. Every single granular detail, they were organized in a specific fashion on it. And so I brought him in as a loan officer because I was so impressed with I'm like, okay, this dude loves living in the details, right? He is OCD to the max. And then more importantly,
you just got to check out his car.
Exactly. I was like, bro, at the time he was driving a 2006 or 2007 Charger.
But clean. Yeah, super clean.
I think he literally sold the car for like $17,000 and he paid like 22 brand new or whatever for it, like 14 years prior. Yeah. And then 2, when things would arise in business, Taylor would be like, oh, bro, I wouldn't do that. That dude's a dick. He's going after you for this, and this. I was like, oh, I don't want to do these. He's like, oh, give me the phone. I'll call him and tell him off. And I was like, holy crap. I just found a human being that loves being bad cop. And he gets so excited to try to rip apart how something could be successful or not because he is so non-risk adverse that he will analyze everything to the absolute detail to make sure that there is zero chance of failure.
He drove a 2006 Charger.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was so afraid all this money would be taken from him, even though he was making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, right? So when I saw that, I then knew, holy crap, I've gotten this far with these giant errors in my game. Dude, this dude fills it. And what's Taylor's thing? Taylor hates being on camera.
Yes.
Taylor hates having attention on him. And Taylor absolutely cannot see vision. Like, he just can't. Like, it's just, he's so in the details, he can never see above the details. I was like, hey, Taylor, I think we should do this, this, and this. I think we should do radio. Hey, I think we should put out a bunch of content. Hey, I think you should go to real estate offices and start educating them. He's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want that spotlight. So I decrease his anxiety so much by doing the things I love, and he decreases my anxiety by doing all the things I hate. It's a beautiful partnership. And then 2, you can't be afraid to call each other out on things. Like if Taylor's being a dick about something, I'll go in his office and be like, bro, you should not have handled it like that with that realtor, bro. Like you came off too hard. You need to soften up, brother. And he'll be like, all right, bro. And because he knows it's coming from a place of love, right? And that's how you find a partnership. You know what I mean?
And then you guys were crushing at Loan Depot. And it's so crazy when I talk to people so scared to leave companies. And you guys were crushing it. And then like, what made you guys just have the balls or the reasoning or whatever it was to be like, F this, like, we're going to go to Start Modern. Like, this is what we're going to do. Like, because you're already correct. Like, it's like everything was going well.
Yeah.
To then jump into a space. And then it's like, I remember when Taylor was like, Yeah, I'm like, yeah, bro. Like when you would talk to me about office spend, I'm like, I'm paying for all this. Now you're paying for it. Welcome to this world, dude.
Yeah.
Like this broke. You got to pay for it. So what was that mindset, or why was that change so important to you guys?
You know what? I was tired of making other people money for 16 years, and when I was doing all the work. So like I sat down and was like, okay, you know what? I drive all my business. I get no business at all. Loan Depot doesn't like, hey, Brian, here was business, or Guarantee Rate was like, oh, hey, Brian, here's a free loan. They did absolutely nothing in terms of giving me my business. And then two, what I realized is I was at a point in my career in my life. I was thinking I was like, 37 or something at the time. And I was like, okay, I've learned everything I could possibly know. And I want to sit in the chair that Anthony Shea sits in, right? There's people that are out there, like if you're at a company and you look at the owner of your company and you think, whether it's your ego or whether it's your ambition, and you're like, I want your chair. I want his seat. And I always wanted their seat. Whereas other people, they're at a company and they're like, dude, I don't want all that risk.
Yeah.
I don't want all that. Like, sweet. I would much rather make 50% of what they make and not have to worry about those headaches. Where me, I thought about it, and one, I was like, I think I could do this better from a branding and marketing standpoint. Two, I don't want to ever be this big. I want to be nimble, because I don't think you could be everything to everybody. I think a massive brand doesn't get the same amount of raving fans that more of like a boutique brand is, because like, and they can't bury into my space. Like right now, if you thought about it, what's the difference between Quicken Loans, Guaranteed Rate, Loan Depot? They're all serving the same customer.
Yeah.
They're all doing the same techniques. Guess what? If the world crashes around me, like the people fall in love with a person, not a brand, right? Like that's why from a social media standpoint, Modern Lending Social does okay. Crypto Charges Social does okay. Why is my brand drive 90% of the business in for those two things? People want to know, like, and trust a person, right?
Yeah.
So when you're this big company like a Guaranteed Rate or a Loan Depot, the human being feels no sense of compassion or adoration for a face of a big brand. And why does Nike use LeBron James, or why does Nike use Tiger Woods? Because people fall in love with that person and they want to be like them, that represents the brand as a brand ambassador. Well, that doesn't exist in the mortgage or real estate space, right? And so I kind of saw that missing niche. And two, just to my own, once again, risk doesn't bother me on things. I was just like, well, let's do it, and I want to control it, and I want that guy's seat. And two, I want to have the ability of giving people a better place to work. Like everybody that works at our office, they love it. They absolutely love it, right? It's fun because I spend my whole life there. I wasn't having fun at Loan Depot.
Yeah. So you obviously made a shift in your after you guys started doing all the crypto stuff. You've definitely noticed. I've noticed a shift in your content, like flexing a little bit more. And I hate using that word, but that's what people call it, flexing.
Yep.
Is the reason, are you doing that because your demographic is the crypto world now, and you're going for that 25 to 40, and you want people to think like, yo, you do with this, you can have the freaking Ferrari and Lambo? Is that the whole shift? Yeah,
I think what it is what does my audience crave, right? So what I do is, for the longest time, you've known me for a while, I had I think I bought my first Lamborghini at 28, right? Not one single this is like my fifth Lambo or whatever I've had, right? Nobody knew about any of my previous Lambos. None of them, right? Like I kept them off social. And a lot of it too was more of like, I didn't want people, we live in Temecula, we live in a small town. I don't want people knowing what I have. I don't want people to think about all of this. And then there was a kind of a shift that kind of, as I was putting out content, I was like, first off, anybody that knows my wife and I knows we are very philanthropic. We give a ton of money away. We will do anything for anybody. So what actually attracts people to somebody's content and the type of my avatar is my avatar wants nice things in life. They want it. That's what they want. If I put up a video, for an example of, let's just say and put up a video of me like getting out of my Ferrari and walking into my house, and I'm teaching somebody about the real estate thing. And I'm doing that versus I just sitting down in a chair talking about real estate. The difference in views and engagement is like 10 times in favor of the Ferrari.
Isn't that somewhat frustrating? Like,
it's so frustrating.
Like, it's so funny. I'll make my best post in the last 3 months was my Range Rover.
Yep.
And then the next day I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I was so pumped, way more pumped than the car. The car's just money.
Yep.
I share that post, not one comment, not one like, no one cared. And I'm like, you know how much work 1,000 subscribers?
It's a lot.
It's a lot of work, and it probably at the end of the day would possibly cost me more money than the car.
Yep. And I think too, what's really cool is people will know, like, okay, we have nice things, we have Ferrari, we have Lambo, we have these things, but when they actually consistently watch your content, there is a difference between being, hey, guess what? I'm rich as F.
Yeah.
Who cares? Guess what? You can't get this. I'm going to go out there. And that's a very different versus, hey, guess what, guys? I grew up with no money. My dad drove a forklift. I have these things, but guess what? I still save 80% of my income. I'm going to shorten this learning curve for you and teach you guys consistently every single thing for free that I put out. It's not like I'm not charging for my content. I'm not running a specific, download. I'm not putting anything behind a paywall. And when people realize too, and then they send you a DM that's like, man, hey, you know what, this and this. I mean, you're responding to their DMs and they know that you're getting probably 100 a day. It actually helps you in that favor.
For sure.
And you become the dichotomy that, like, it's like when I go to the mall now, and my kids, I'll never forget the story, is like my dad's buddy, he had a Porsche. And I've been obsessed with cars since I was a little kid. Like, obsessed with cars since I was a little kid. And I went and I, like, touched his Porsche. And I never forget this. He was like, can you get your kids' hands off my Porsche? And I wasn't slobbering on it. So, right? So, like, every time now that my wife and I go somewhere, and I see any kid take a picture, hey, do you want to sit in the car? You want to do this? You want to do that? And so you can use those types of things in a way to actually show people that, guess what? Making money doesn't have to change you. And that's what I try to do. But it also can be used to motivate. Like, I get far more people saying, bro, honestly, I want to get, you're such a motivation point for me. Like, you came from nothing. I've watched you grow over the last 6 or 7 years, dude. Now I know that I can do this too. You know what I mean? And you're also at the point of, don't overspend your means. I mean, we lived in the same house. I'm just now building a house, and I've been in my house for 9 years. And when I bought my house, I mean, my annual income, was 3 times what my house cost. You know what I mean? And like, so everybody has their thing, and more importantly, I tell everybody else, is the best way that you can never let that stuff change you is constantly try to be the poorest guy in your circles. And
that's what I think is so crazy. It's like, I was having a conversation with a realtor before this, and I'm like, dude, I just tried like a big story that motivated me is Taylor, is like, I'm like, dude, I've watched you go from, first off, I've watched you from being a punk in high school to a loan officer I sat down at Chili's with, and you were trying to talk to me, handed me this big folder, and I looked at him and said, what's this? He goes, so you can learn about loans. I said, that's your job. Like, I'll bring the people, man. You do that. To now, like taking that and then like flying private jets, and like I'm like, dude, that's so inspiring. And I think it's like, this industry, it's like, dude, you could surround yourself with ballers like that. It's a mental different game. And I think that's the thing I think so sad in this industry. It's like, dude, take advantage. Try to connect with like the right people in this industry. Could literally change the game.
Easily. And for the most part, one thing that I've been able to kind of really learn is the biggest dickheads are the guys that are the wealthiest guy in their circle of friends. And they're the guy, and I don't really care. I'll talk shit on it or crap on it, whatever I want, is like, I was that guy. When I was probably 24 years old, I was probably making 300 grand a year. All my buddies were making like 60 grand. And I would go spend $2,500 a week at Nordstrom's, dress in the part. I had no money saved up, and I thought I was the man, right? The man. Well, guess what? Like, all that is because I was swimming with minnows and, and I was a goldfish, right? You know what I mean? And then what happened is I very quickly, as I started to act, and I didn't know anybody that was super rich, right? I didn't know anybody. And then over the last 10 years or so, like, I've gotten to know 3 billionaires like very well, like have their cell phone numbers taken. You would never know. And so every time I think of it, and I'll come home sometimes and like I'll sit in the garage, kind of cool down, and I'm like, hell yeah, I had a great day today. Then I'll think about it and I'll be like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll do this or that or this or that. And then I think about it and I like have like an arrogant moment to myself, like subconsciously, right? Like, holy crap, like this. And then I think to myself and I was like, oh shoot, Matt Ishbia buys his t-shirts off of Cuts for $27 as a 3-pack and only wears black shirts because he doesn't want anybody to know he has money, and he's worth $7 billion. Like, what the hell are you? Shut up, you idiot. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's crazy because there's no possibility, like when you're hanging around with people that they don't think that money's an issue. Like I remember that day, that conversation I had with you, I was like, yeah, well, that's when we started the podcast, Cool Places, Cool People. And I was like, I always want to do it on a private jet. You're like, yeah, I'll make a call for you. And I'm like, what? Like not even think twice about it. And I think that's the thing that's so crazy in the space we live in. You're only one piece of content away of blowing up. Like you're just one video of going super viral and all of a sudden you're the Brian Decker talking at Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. Like that's the thing that people don't understand. So you crushed in the loan game. Then you got really into crypto. I remember you saying that like you just listened to like podcasts like about crypto. So what was the jump and what was the reasoning on starting a crypto channel? Was it just going like, hey, let's just have another stream of income? Was it like, I'm just kind of bored with loans, I want to do something else? What was that reasoning?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me is my brother was into blockchain and crypto since 2013. Okay. My brother's 4 years younger than me. We're not super close, but he kept trying to get me into crypto. And this is probably like in 2015 or so. He hit me up and he's like, hey, can I get 40 grand? I want to go buy some Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was maybe $700 or something. And I was like, no, I'm not giving you 50 grand for a Ponzi scheme, you idiot. Right. And he'd bugged me for it, and I was so closed minded for 6 years. Right. And I've always thought like, I'm a pretty decently intelligent guy. Like crypto is just Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme. And then I sold my dispensary that I had interest in. And so I ended up signing it, and I was going to have a good amount of money coming in every single month for about 18 months. And I didn't want to put it in the equities market. This was like very beginning of 2020, right before, COVID kind of hit. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way to kind of put this in. I was like, okay, let me just explore everything, right? And I realized doing that how absolutely wrong I had crypto. And so I knew if I myself had it this wrong, then must be no good education platforms out there that if it took me 6 years of being somebody that really watches and consumes a lot of content to have it so wrong. So I started really looking into what it was, understanding what blockchain technology is. Saying that crypto is going to go by the wayside. I mean, now it's, 2.5 years later, it's a little more, is like my grandfather telling me that nobody in the history of the world would send an email. Why not just pick up the phone? You're going to sit down at a computer and type something up. Why don't you just pick up the phone and call me? And I still remember him telling me that. Right. And I thought to myself, and I was like, oh my God, like, I need to not try to justify why something in the future won't work for me, because guess what? It's not for me. It's for my kids. So like invest with the risk tolerance of our grandparents, but invest in the things that our kids want, right? And so I really started diving into it, and I started making a bunch of money on it. And I just became obsessed with this, like literally the way the world is going and the way it's transacting and all the problems it solves. And then more importantly, I love the fact that it became sound money and that nobody can take it from you and it's a finite supply. So I started going down the rabbit hole, and I started basically making it a mission of mine to change the minds of people for cryptocurrency. And because everybody I talked to about it with had the same mindset as me. I was like, no, guys, trust me, I was that person, whatever, dude. So I was like, dude, I'm just going to start doing it. And then I got a social media request from Dan Habib. Well, Dan Habib is Barry Habib's son. They own the largest real estate or mortgage education platform in the country. They have 50,000 paying subscribers at $200 a month. Company's valued at 9 figures. And Barry Habib was like my idol growing up. I wanted to be like him, right? He's best friends with Tony Robbins, that whole world, right? So Dan Habib writes me a message on Instagram, once again, hey bro, I watch your content on crypto all the time. He's like, I used to be a technical trader at JP Morgan. I really know charts. You seem like you know the fundamentals really well. Why don't we have a conversation? I think that we could maybe create something here, that's like an investment research company that can like change people's like kind of minds and perspective and give them that. And I was like, okay, well, meeting Dan Habib, I found another me, right? I was like, oh, this guy's an executor. This guy does this. And so we ended up partnering up. And basically that was April of 2021. By June of 2021, we were on the phone with a venture capitalist firm called Go Empirical to incubate us and take our platform live. We pitched them and they were like, oh, this is a brilliant idea. This is absolutely brilliant. Like and we didn't want any money from them because we were going to self-fund it. And then from there, it just kind of all fell into place. And then we ended up launching on like October 30th. And it's now at the point where our platform, and especially what we've done, has made it so user-friendly. Now somebody can literally go onto our crypto platform, click on something called either technical analysis or coin library. They can click technical analysis. It gives them 40 coins, exactly what price to buy it, what prices to sell it, when not to buy it, and literally just show them that simply. Or they can click on something called coin library, pick any coin you want, and it says, let's say you pick Bitcoin. It tells you in the most dumbed down, simplistic version what it is, why it is, who the influencers are in the space to follow their social media accounts to learn about it, basically where to buy it, how to buy it, when to sell it, everything simply put that literally my daughter, who's 7 years old, could understand it. And then we put it out there and said, we're not gonna put any marketing dollars behind it. Let's just put every dollar we have into making the best platform and product possible. And here it is, 4 months after launch, and we have 1,500 paying members that are like super fans. Like our watch rate on our streams, like of our platform, like 90% of our entire member base watches every video that we put out for 25 minutes every day. And that's what we dumb it down. We do a live stream, make it as simply put, and just tell people, hey, buy here, this is what it is. And just, it's a place that they can go to get good content. And it's just, I feel like I owe the world the ability to teach them something that I was so wrong about. It's like that sense of guilt.
Like,
you know what I mean?
And man, if you would only drop that 50 G's when it was $700.
No kidding. My brother tells me all the time, because my brother put decent money. My brother's been retired for like 5 or 6 years. He lives in Portugal, and then I think he just moved to London. And my brother mined like Dogecoin in 2013.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like my brother was a computer programmer, and he's a brilliant kid, but he was just younger than me, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder with him always. And here he is with 8 figures in crypto and never worked really a day in his life, and that's the great part about it, is it gives people the power, and it's the best performing asset at all times. Over the last 10 years, doesn't matter you're in a down year, Bitcoin has averaged 140% returns per year, every single year. So if somebody, like if you bought it right now, in 4 years from now, I pretty much guarantee you're going to have averaged 140% per year of returns. You may lose 60% in 1 year because it's a volatile asset, but the next year it's going to be up 300%. It's the best performing asset, and now you have the biggest institutional players in the world gobbling it.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's just like, it's like anything, like stock market, real estate, being a real estate agent, being a loan officer. It's like everyone wants to get into crypto because they think they just become a billionaire overnight. And it's like, dude, get on the platform, buy it because you believe in the future of it, not thinking you're just gonna flip it for 10 G's and make it. It's like everyone, when crypto, 18 was when Bitcoin it's like 19 grand, and then it dropped down to 7, and people were leveraging credit cards. It's like everyone's freaking out. It's like, oh, Bitcoin's done. It's like, if you would have held that, dude.
Murder it. And that's where it's a huge part, is even now, like, we've saw the stock market lose 800 points on the NASDAQ in a single day, right, when Russia and Ukraine came out. And we have seen right now with Russia and Ukraine and what's going on, people now see the use of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was designed and came out of the 2008 financial crash when the world basically made decisions to bail all these big companies out, get an insane amount of debt, deflate our dollars. So we basically are, the buying power of our US dollar is so crappy, and basically big government chooses when to inflate away our buying power. They have all the power on our dollars, right? If we look right now, I mean, gas prices are up 50% from a year and a half ago. So like nobody's income's up 50%. So I saw that happens. And then I saw Russia, Putin. Okay, there's lots of innocent Russian citizens out there. There's a lot of them, right, that don't agree with Putin. But yet the sanctions with the U.S. has forced they cannot do any business transactions with anywhere in the EU, anywhere in the UK, and anywhere in the U.S. So if it
has nothing to do with them.
And it has nothing to do with them, right? And so their ruble, their money has lost 80% of its value, and they're being absolutely obliterated, and they don't agree with it. Just like I didn't vote for Biden, but guess what? Biden's decisions carry over to me, right? So what Bitcoin has now done for the first time is Bitcoin's held up. Bitcoin's actually gone up because people in Russia, people in Ukraine, people in El Salvador are understanding, wait, this is an asset that can never be shut down. No government can control it. And I can keep it on this little hardware wallet as a USB drive. And there's not a single person in the world that can ever talk to anybody to take it away from me. And guess what? That crap hits the fan. I got $2 million on one. Guess what? I can go anywhere in the world, plug it into any computer, enter in my private key, and I'm right into my thing, and nobody can ever touch it. And that's power. It's like having physical gold, like what you used to have when, the Great Depression. It's physical gold, it's digital gold, and that's kind of my thing.
I think that's the thing is like in anything, like if you can get to a point where it doesn't matter what happens around you, if you'll be okay.
Yep.
It's like, I think like you said, if rates go up to 10%, there's nothing like right now as an agent, all these young agents are hitting me up like, how do I get my first listing? How do I do? I'm like, dude, this is like one of the hardest markets I've ever been in. I'd rather take a crash.
Yeah.
I would rather take REO and short sales. At least there's things moving. I'm like, there's nothing out there. So you and everyone else are facing those problems. And that's why like we're trying to do all this and like other streams of income. And so Brian, I've learned so much for you over the years. I'm very fortunate. Like, thank you, Taylor. Appreciate you. But like, what is something like a lot of my people are loan officers and realtors who follow this stuff. What is something that you could give advice to one of them to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that you got to decide is real estate or mortgage a career for you, or is it a job, right? Because if it's just a job for you and you're just doing it because the getting was good and you're going to get out of it, right? Then you need to make that decision to go where your passion is, right? Now, if you've made that decision that this is a career, meaning when the market tanks or things change, this is a career and you're going to stick with it. You have got to figure out a way to be able to get your business and grow your business through something that is going to have a high barrier of entry. And why I love content marketing and picking a platform, whether that's Instagram or that's YouTube or that's Facebook. Pick a singular platform, learn that platform, and guess what? The best thing that you could ever do to beat out your competition is to do something they don't want to do or don't know how to do. And so why I have always chosen content over the last years is, guess what? Now, anybody that has even a chance of trying to catch up to me has to put out just as much content as I do, consistently do it, and doing it consistently is the hardest thing that anybody will ever be able to do. But guess what? It's not expensive, right? Like me producing all the content, doing everything I do is 1/10 of my overall company's marketing budget. But guess what? It brings in about 30% of our company's income, okay? So you have to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to stick into real estate. I'm going to stick into mortgage, and I am going to find a way I'm going to focus in on YouTube. Okay. And I'm going to focus in on YouTube. And what I need to do is I'm going to take 30 hours this week to learn everything I can about breaking into YouTube. I'm going to read all the blogs out there. I'm going to read YouTube on how to be good at YouTube. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top and understand that I'm going to suck for a while. I'm going to feel like I'm an imposter. And I hope people don't find out that I don't know what I'm doing. And then I'm going to find out who my target market is. My target market is going to be individuals that want to move to, Phoenix, Arizona, that are from California and other things. Okay, if I was going to move to Phoenix, Arizona, what would I want to know? Okay, first thing I'd probably want to know is like, where are the best schools? Where are the best doctors? What are the best restaurants? What are cool things to do if I have kids, right? Okay, so that is my content pillar, and I'm going to hyper focus on my niche, because guess what? Your job isn't to have 100,000. I always laugh when I see people have 100,000 followers, and I look on it and I go in and I said, okay, 100,000 followers. You have 600 likes and you have 4 comments.
Yeah.
Okay, your niche doesn't know what you're trying to do. I would much rather have 3,000 followers that have 70 comments that are watching my videos, because I am literally making them engaged in my content, and they're going to reach out to me when they buy or sell. And you got to know that it's a long game. But the greatest thing about it is it doesn't take money. It just takes time. And right now, if you're not doing a bunch of business, the one thing you got is time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can't be successful right now, you will never be successful, because we have Google. You can learn anything at any time on Google, YouTube, or a podcast. So if you're not winning right now, you will have never won in history. You would have sucked. Imagine if you had to go to the library and read, right?
Remember when you used to go to someone's house and they have like A to Z, and like that's what like people with that like, oh, I need to learn this about how, and you'd have to like go through a book and look at it, and you're like, what the?
And now versus it's like, hey Siri, blah blah blah, you know? And so that's why I told people, like, take advantage of that and stick to it. Stick to something, right? It's going to take a while. You're going to fail, but you're going to reach that point of critical mass, and it's going to like, I literally made terrible videos and put terrible content that would get like 115 views for like a year. But you know what? Like, I just didn't give up.
Yeah.
And I just tried to figure out why it wasn't working. And I then R&D people, rip off and duplicate, figure out what's working in your niche, and just copy what they're doing. It's not that hard. Don't make the exact video, but guess what? Talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what? And that's how people need to be able to do it. And if you don't want to do that and you say, oh, social media isn't for me, digital marketing, then money's not for you.
Yeah.
You know?
You're not going to make it in this day and age. So, Brian, you're a busy man. I appreciate you taking the time
of course,
out of the
brother.
time. So, until next time, guys. Peace.